Carthage must be destroyed. Today we're going to continue on with our Hail Caesar walkthrough. Last time on this channel we started to look at charging and melee, and we're going to continue on with the charging today. We're going to get on to 2 units charging 1 unit charging 2 units, and go on from there. So we're going to set this table up and get right into this, and we will continue on. Okay, so I've set everything up here, so it looks like the Roman maniple system is heading towards these Carthaginian forces here. You can see it's kind of like, this might be how a typical division would look like in the middle of a battle, or at least mine would. I like to set mine up with this checkerboard look when I'm marching forward to the enemy. But anyway, we're going to do this fight here where we've got up top there, we've got the Samnite unit, the Italian ally unit. We've got some Triarii and some Principe here. We are going to demonstrate here how a 2-on-1 charge may look. Now in Hail Caesar, usually your units are going to have a similar frontage. Like for example, these guys up here are about 160 millimeters. 160 millimeters, pretty standard in a lot of people's games, but that's their frontage, that's how wide they are. Typically what you'll see in Hail Caesar is a similar sized unit charging another similar sized unit, but if you're like me and play with lots of small units, you can often have 2 units charging the same front of 1 unit. And last video we also looked at how it's important to line up your small unit infantry or small unit cavalry, but first we will demonstrate the 2-on-1. So basically 2-on-1 would be where 2 units charge the front. You got to look at your enemy unit, you check proximity from the center front, and you charge. So a unit at 2-on-1 is very simple. It's where, say this unit has charged here, okay? He makes it in, and now we also have enough room that a second smaller unit could charge in here, right? So that'd be a simple 2-on-1 where 2 smaller units are able to fit on the front of a larger unit than itself, where it's, okay? So oftentimes this will happen when it's 2 small units charging a standard unit, because typically a small unit is going to be half the size of a standard. And then it can also happen where 2 standard units charge the front of a large unit, because a large unit is typically double the size of a standard unit. Now, some people like to modify it a bit, and you're perfectly welcome to do this. Some people make their fronts from their small, medium, and small, standard, and large units. They don't have them or double them. That is okay, but I think for game rules and something like this, I couldn't imagine having 3 small units on a standard unit, for example. So I personally like to have it so the units are at least half if they're smaller than a standard, or a large in the case of the large and the standard. Now, remember last time, and I'll just point this out again, say this Triarii unit was here, and it charged these lads here, and it met them there. Remember that you need enough space on your frontage to actually meet the foes. So there's no longer like, and remember, you can't shift over or move wherever they charge from the center front on a smaller unit. If they hit the end there, they're not going to maximize to the center if they charged from here to there, but rather, because these guys were in the middle and they charged the center there, there's no longer room here or here for another unit to fit into that frontage. So be careful with smaller units charging larger units in the 2-on-1s. You want to set it up so when you charge, you can actually fit another unit in there. Now here's another rule the rulebook goes through. And let's say that these guys had been back here and the Triarii charged here, but there's a unit behind them. If this unit wanted to charge this unit and there's enough space for them, this unit is actually able to draw their line of sight through their own unit. So say they said we're going to charge, they can charge, and if they have enough movement, oops, I just knocked my hastati there, they're actually able to kind of move over and fit there, okay? So if you, like I said, if you guys have a unit here that could draw proximity and line of sight for a charge, and it goes through a friendly unit engaged at the front, and that unit is small enough and allows the space, you can kind of, I don't really know how to describe this, you can morph through your own unit. So if these guys were here and wanted to charge, let's say they say, okay, well, they can draw a line of sight. If this unit wasn't here, their center front could draw a line of sight through it. They're actually able to charge and just be put over here, okay? So that's one exception to the rule. You don't necessarily have to be lined up here and lined up here. You could have two smaller units approaching something like, you know, if this unit was here and this unit here, let's move these Principe aside. You could also do something like this. Say this Triarii movement decides to charge and moves in. He charges, he makes it. This Astadi unit could also say, I'm going to charge. You pretend that this smaller unit is not there. And remember, this only works if there's enough space to fit another unit. He could say, I'm going to charge the Italian allies there. He charges and you pretend he's made it through his own friends and just move him over. Okay, so that is one thing to remember with smaller units. If you're doing two smaller units charging one, if there's enough space to be able to fit the frontage of that unit over there, you can actually pretend the other unit that's engaged on your side isn't there. So I hope that makes sense. Some people look at that and they scratch their head, but that's how the rules have worded it. Now, you might be playing a game where you suddenly come across a situation like this. You have two small units here, the Triarii and these Principes, and they are adjacent. In this situation here, you have a charging 1-on-2 case, okay? Now, charging 1-on-2 is exactly that, where one unit is going to end up charging two. Now, some people like me, and I do this when I play my opponents, is we get tricky. We like to put two small units adjacent, as you see there. This forces my friend, or my opponent, I should say. They're not my friend, they're my enemy. This forces my enemies to have to maximize against both units, okay? So, what happens here is that when you are charging a single unit and you got another unit that is adjacent to it, let's say that these Italian allies charge these Principe here, they are kind of touching the side here of this enemy here as well. They're actually supposed to maximize over to the left here and be able to fit both units. So if you have an adjacent unit and you end up charging one, your unit is going to have to maximize over and touch the other unit. And typically, this will happen with a larger unit charging a smaller unit. But if there's two standard adjacent units side by side, then you'd also move over. How you determine if this unit is fighting or not is if at any time when this unit is maximizing, if this unit center front ends up touching this standard unit, okay? And in this case it is. It's as if this unit has charged this unit as well. So both of these small units would be able to react to this unit as if it charged, okay? So if this unit was, say, archers or something, it could shoot at these guys because it has a charge reaction, or it could stand or do whatever response would be appropriate for having an adjacent unit, okay? And just to give you guys another example here, I've taken these guys off movement trays. I'm going to say from this Triarii unit to this Triarii unit is a standard front. And then this unit here, from yellow shield to yellow shield, is a small unit. Let's say that these Italian allies under Carthage here decide to charge these Hastati here, a small unit. And this is a case where you'd have a small unit adjacent to a standard unit. Let's say that these guys here charge and they say, okay, the unit's adjacent and they have to move over. Well, I'll line it up properly because one guy's on a base, their frontage is slightly longer. Let's say in that case they charge like this. You'll see that on this way here, a small unit is going to still cause a standard unit to hit the center front of this unit, and they'll be fighting here. So even those corners touching there, this unit's still going to be charging 2-on-1, okay? And this would even be scarier than fighting two small units, because now you're fighting a standard unit and a small unit if you charge that way. But let's say that these guys were back here. Let's put them on the other side here. Let's say that these lads, 2-on-1 charge here. This standard unit charges the other standard unit. Well, if you're going to do the maximize over unit, and these guys touch like this, this guy's center front here on the charge is not touching this unit. So therefore, they're not actually fighting. They would only be supporting that unit. Okay? So depending on how things are set up or how a unit lies after these guys charge, they may be able to fight or not, or they'll be just engaged as a support. Now, because these guys center front aren't charging, it's like they haven't been charged by this unit. So they don't get to react. They don't have a response to this charge, okay? And again, if say these guys were here and they charged home here, they're not going to do any maximizing because they're already maximized. They don't shift over. It depends really if the unit's far off to the side or something like that on the small unit, and then it's a little more obvious on the standard unit. They just match. So if these guys charge like I just did there, and they meet the middle there, you can see that this small unit center front isn't touching, so these guys still aren't fighting, okay? So it's just a matter of when you charge, moving a unit over so it maximizes. If you're charging straight on like this, you don't have to maximize. If you're charging a standard unit, you just go against a standard unit. But if it's a small unit with a standard unit or something of dissimilar frontages, you're gonna have to move over to see if this guy's center front touches that unit. And if it did, well, then you're gonna be fighting a 1-on-2 situation. Now we're going to talk about charging with open order units, and we talked about what open order units can or cannot charge beforehand here. Basically, an open order unit is only going to be allowed to charge other open order units, buildings or single models. They'd have to form up if they're light infantry to charge, say, these guys over here. But well, firstly, I want to talk about open order charging other open order units. Normally, when open order units are allowed to charge something, it's going to be against something else that's open order. So these open order unit Italians here could charge these open order unit velites, however you want to pronounce that. Charging there to there would be okay, and we'll demonstrate how that works. But something I have often and always overlooked in my games, and this is why it's important to reread the rule book, because if you read it once, you think you know the rules, you really don't. I've read through this rule book numerous times, and I tend to find something I forget or miss. But if for whatever reason you are in a situation where an open order unit, an enemy open order unit, is adjacent to a formed unit, which is also your enemy, this open order unit cannot charge that unit. And I just found that out in the first paragraph reading this charging of open order units. So if you have a formed unit adjacent to an enemy, or if you have an enemy formed unit adjacent to an enemy open order unit, your own open order unit cannot charge them because it brings those guys into support. So when you're charging open order with open order, this open order unit has to be on its lonesome to initiate the charge. Otherwise, if they're adjacent like this, they couldn't charge. So if these lads weren't here, then it'd be perfectly okay for these guys to charge those velites over there. Say the velites wanted to charge, proximity rule only gives the open order units a 6-inch proximity, but for proximity, in this situation here, they'd be charging the Italians here. Let's say that this lone elephant here is adjacent to this unit. That's okay. These guys could charge these guys because an elephant in Hail Caesar counts as a single model, formed or not. And it's often the case when my velites in open order formation charge a lone elephant, which is actually can be quite deadly for the elephant because these guys get +1 to their attack. Anyway, yeah, in this situation, they'd be able to charge because the elephant's only one single model. Or if it was other open order units, they'd be able to charge, right? So just remember, in most cases, an open order unit is going to charge another open order unit with nothing adjacent to it. It cannot charge form units. Okay, so here's what happens when an open order unit charges. What you do is you pick, and remember, open orders have a frontage of, they don't have a frontage rather, they have line of sight, and they don't have a frontage, kind of 360 deal. What you do when you charge another open order unit is you take the model that's closest to the enemy unit and match it to the closest enemy open order unit. Facing doesn't matter, as open orders have a 360 degree, so I mean, like if he was, maybe I had him slightly like this, it doesn't matter. It just goes by closest model to closest model here. He turns his head. He's not in a formed battle formation or anything like that. And again, like formed units, it doesn't matter if, say, this guy's 6 inches away, infantry moves 6. If this guy's 6 inches away and charges, if this guy's like 8 inches away, don't worry about it. We're going by the front model's distance to the enemy open order unit. So, so anyway, what you do is you also have to consider, so let's say that these Italians charge, and with open order, it's when an open order charges another open order unit, it kind of becomes a big, I like to think of it as like a what would you call it, a street, not a street brawl, but like a bar brawl or something like that. So what you do is you move your guys into combat here, and you just want to move them as close as possible to your enemy. And it's okay with open order units to be a bit messy. You're going to draw them in as close as they could go. And to make it look like they're all clashed up, the enemy also, when you charge, will also put up his guys in a manner that looks like they're all, you know, responding by forming in. So you basically want to put them all up as close as possible, no matter who charges in open order. It doesn't really matter, to be honest, because the guy closest to you is the one that matters for getting charged. But you just want to put them all close together to look like they're fighting. Let's say that these guys are all fighting. They're a mess, okay? But in fighting, they're now engaged. They technically have a front. They technically have a flank now. Now, you can use your judgment for this and use your common sense, okay? Let's say that, let's rearrange this elephant here. Let's say these Hastati come from the side here. They want to charge these Italians here. I mean, this Hastati here, if they charge, this kind of looks like a really badly made flank. They're going to consider this a flank charge when they move in and charge, okay? It doesn't look like it doesn't follow the same rules. But just use your common sense. Just pretend that the flank is there when you're fighting. That's what the rules here state anyway. Okay, so other formed units can get involved with these smaller open order units, or other open order units could come in. Like I could have the light cavalry decide to charge here. Let's say there's we'll give them a frontage here. They come in and charge these light cavalry, charge the velites, and they're in open order. That's okay. Just use your common sense in this situation if it happens, be it a formed unit like these guys charging these guys, or the light cavalry charging the velites there. Open order gets messy, but it's really, I just want to, the longest drawn out fights I've had in my games, when open order units fight other open order units. There's nothing more, there's nothing more epic than a unit of skirmisher slingers fighting a unit of javelin throwers, and they're both skirmishers with no armor. So I should also just mention in here for clarification, when open order units are fighting other open order units, in the terms of support, it's okay if another open order unit comes and supports another open order unit, but according to the rules, and we get to this later, if an open order unit is, say, fighting, let's say these velites are fighting these lads here, these velites are fighting these Italians here, a formed unit like these these triarii, they cannot support an open order unit, okay? So that's something to remember. Formed units cannot support open order units in combat. That's because the open order units are too dispersed and spread out to get any sense, this is what the rule books say, to get any sense where they're supposed to support. So open order units in combat are kind of on their own, unless, say, another open order unit comes in. So usually when two open order units are fighting each other, if there's no other open order unit nearby, nothing can support them. You can still charge the enemy open order unit. Like again, like if these Hastati were here, they could still charge the flank, the made up flank of these Italian allies here. But these Hastati could not support their buddies, the velites up here. So that's just something to remember. Alright, as you can see here, one of my shields fell off, but that's an easy fix. That's all I'm going to talk about today. Next time we're going to get into charge responses. So if you guys like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you guys want to see more content, please subscribe to this channel. I'll keep filming this series. But yeah, we will see you next time and continue on with our Hail Caesar walkthrough. Have a good one.